welcome back to another episode of the Blue Honor Vlog. On this month's episode, I want to talk about a question that has been asked of me a few times, and that question is, do you still have the dreams? And it's in regards to Trailokya, I believe. As you know, Opdeck also came from a dream, a most very strange time-crossing dream that I had, where I was actually Claire, meeting Karsten and then going on the date and discovering he is a spy and all that stuff, and the film playing and stuff was Star Wars. That's where my mind goes. Where would you go? What movie would you go see on a date? And I'm like, so Star Wars, of course, you know. New Hope, Empire, maybe Jedi. Probably Empire. Empire's my favorite. So anyway, Trailokya is completely based on dreams and weird experiences and stuff that I've had in real life. And I do still have those dreams. Actually, just a couple nights ago from taping this, I had a dream. And I did not want to wake up from that, which that sounds very depressing and sad. I love my life. I love my daughter, my family. I love what I do. Don't get me wrong. But in the dream, it was so blissful. I've never felt anything like that. Just absolute bliss. And I was so happy. Everything was so perfect. When you wake up from something like that, for the first few hours, you're just very jarred. Very jarred by it. It's like, you thought it was so real. My daughter was in the dream with me. My best friend was in the dream with me. There were other people in the dream that I wanted to be around. And everything was extremely real and everything was just great and happy. And that's all that I want, you know. And some pieces in the waking world are missing, you know. So that can be a little jarring because it's like, oh my God, I got it. I finally got hold of it. And it's like, oh, no, I'm awake. I'm not there. That was not real. And it's just like, you know, your mind is a little shaky for the rest of the day. But by day 2, I was fine. But they have such a huge emotional impact on me. It is jarring, it is alarming, it is noteworthy. And that's how I ended up writing the books, because it is so noteworthy. I mean, you sit up and take notice of it. Something's going on here, something so very real. It's just stuff like that. But anyway, as I've said before, I finally wrote down the dreams to try and, have a friend help me sift through them and stuff, and to find if there was any meaning. And what we found was that there was an actual way to order them. So like a dream that I had when I was 30 would happen in the timeline earlier, and something that I had when I was 5 goes up here, and it was just kind of fitting the puzzle pieces together. So the dreams are not happening like in a linear timeline. It's not like I go to sleep and I'm dreaming about living another life day by day. Sometimes it feels that way. But it's like memories and little pieces and stuff. And it's so fascinating, utterly fascinating. I don't know where I picked up all the pieces from that feed into it. I couldn't possibly trace that, especially the Three Doors dreams, which started when I was very, very young. And I had no idea about chakras, about symbolism, and anything like that, the colorations and all of that. It's fascinating because it's like it came from something, and I'm just like, did I watch something? You're a baby and you're sat in a high chair and you're eating your little supper. Did they watch something on TV that just kind of crept in there and stuck? It's also fascinating because you wonder where you unpack it from. And I love studying theologies, mythologies, and I find those all very fascinating. But I didn't start really studying those until I was a teenager. you know, there's stuff that you come into contact with, etc., throughout your life, and you get little tidbits and stuff. But just the way some things work out and stuff, it just makes you go, it's interesting that works in the way that it does, because it had this base knowledge that it was working from, it being the idea or the dream or whatever, and yet I didn't have that. And it's like, so I got very much into Carl Jung, who talked about the universal mind and our connection to that and archetypes, etc. So that could possibly provide an answer. No one knows if there is like this human universal mind, but something that I deeply believe in is genetic memory. Sorry, I have allergies. Genetic memory being that somehow ideas and protections, whatever, ideas, beliefs, etc., are genetically passed down. And it is more so connected to protective tools that we use, so that we learn to be afraid of the dark because there are things that can get us in the dark. We learn to not touch fire because fire can burn us. We know how to just inherently cook to help ourselves survive. We know that bad smell is not good. But nobody had to necessarily teach us. It's just, I know that smell is not good. I just happen to know how to throw these things together to make a meal and feed myself, and how to apply the heat and all of that. It's like I went through certain steps to do things, and you find out that that's ancient practice, you know, from your ancestors. And I'm like, I don't even know what compelled me to do it. I just did. You know, about setting out stones and certain herbs and a fire or whatever. And just, you know, just all the steps to do things. And no one ever instructed me on how to do that. I just kind of knew. And it's like, so I believe a lot of things are passed down, and there isn't really an explanation for that. It's just genetics on some level, and it's so deeply fascinating. So why too wouldn't dreams have that same phenomenon of memory? So, like Carl Jung said, the universal mind, it could be within us. All of those experiences from ancestors, etc., all of that is in there. And my ancestors' experiences come from several different places throughout Europe, whether it be Norse or Roman, Greek, Eastern European, Viking, Dutch, Anglo-Saxon, I think, Celtic traditions, etc. So those people who came before me but helped come to this moment, being me, all of those things are possibly there. I mean, it's interesting, right? So maybe there is a knowledge base within my head of all of those past practices somehow. And the dream, the brain during dreams is able to access that somehow, read and interpret it. But to answer the questions, yes, I still dream. I still dream it all the time. Writing it down has not stopped it. I would not say it has increased it either. Some people might believe that, well, if you write it down, you dispel it. That usually works for me. That usually works in a lot of cases for me. Other people will believe that if you write something down and you concentrate on it, then you can make it happen more. I can't make them happen more or less. They happen. I'm not able to control the frequency. Nor am I necessarily able to control if I am conscious, so to speak, that lucid state. I've tried. Sometimes just can't reach it. Just can't reach it. I do prefer it, but that doesn't mean that the way that I'm dreaming is conducive to that type of activity, brain activity within the dream, a lucid sort of state. But yes, I do have them all the time. They're still informing me for further editions and stuff. As I said, I want to go to Agart for the next portion of the series, and I want to do more with this. But right now, I'm concentrating on the third book, The Lucent Rise, which is released now. And I'm very excited, and I hope you'll read it. That doesn't necessarily close out Miles' story. It closes out that portion of her story. There may be other episodes that I could tell that could take place regarding Miles and stuff, like her stint with the UWOS and things like that, just working with her new unit. Stuff that's going on as Holly, maybe going back, and the multiple lives that she lived through with Dominic. That would be torture. Going back with Dominic. Wasn't always bad. As you know, in any domestic violence situation, there's always, it starts fine. It's great, it's beautiful. But there comes that switch. And that's, but, you'd have to draw that nuance through there. And that's hard because, when you've survived things, you don't want to go back into the mindset necessarily. But it is interesting, It is interesting. Could help others. So I always remind myself of that. But yes, I still have the dreams. I still see them frequently. So Gediel was in one of my dreams recently. And that's always interesting. Him sitting there going, I need you to focus. And I need you to remember this. And I'm like, okay. And he tells me, and I remember nothing. Once I wake up, like, it just faded as I woke up. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I should probably write that down. And now, oh no, I'll remember. I didn't. It dissipated. It went away. And it was important, so I should have gotten up, written that down. And I did not. So, lesson learned. But I'm sure I'll get another dose because I didn't listen, didn't focus. So my brain will want to come back and go, listen, and write this down. Because it does that. And it could have been something about the books, Me going, listen, pay attention, you gotta write this down. I'll get better at it, right? I keep saying that, but I've been having the dreams my whole life, and nothing has really changed around my interaction with them and my ability to control, remember, or cause. So they just happen. When they're going to happen, how they're going to happen, which is kind of cool if you think about it in that way. When I've written a book positing the realness of it and stuff, it kind of makes you like, eek, maybe she's dreaming about it, it's not just a dream. Who knows, right? I guess we'll know someday. Maybe. But yeah, make sure you read the books. The Trailokya trilogy, they are available now. Kindle and paperback. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.